Hey everybody, welcome. This is the Adventure Prep stream. Thanks for coming. Let me know if you can see me and hear me okay. I'm just going to repeat everything that I just said. And yeah, we're just doing a little midday stream here. I have an upcoming gig that I am kind of daunted by. And so whenever that happens, I like to hop on YouTube and sort of talk to you guys and figure out if you can help me get out of this problem that I'm in. So this week, the issue is that I was hired to, the ink is not 100% dry, but I was hired to run a sort of a D&D themed adventure camp. Delete what? I don't know, Matthias. Welcome. I was hired to run a D&D winter camp. So some of the kids that I run for professionally, they're going on winter break, and they wanted me boy, I can't talk. They wanted me to run some games for them while they're on winter break. So I did this a couple months ago over the summer. I ran 2 weeks of a D&D adventure camp where for 1 week it was one party of adventurers, and then for the next week it was the next party of adventurers. It was one session every day, 3 hours a day for 5 days. So a total of 10 days of gaming over 2 weeks. They were two different parties, but it was one character who persisted between both parties. So they were in the first week and then they were in the second week. So that's kind of where I'm doing a similar thing now where I'm being hired to run, I think it's 3 days per week. So it's like 3 sessions for one group and then 3 sessions for another group. I'm assuming that I'm going to have the same thing where one character will carry over. And last time when I did it, it was very fun. It was like a wild experience. I ended up blogging about it, which you can find either on our Patreon or on our Medium account. But when I ran it last time, I sort of had to pluck the characters out of their established adventures that they're already in and throw them into this kind of other weird world that was separate from their regular adventure. So I have these 2 groups that I consistently run week by week, right? Or month by month. I run 1 session per month for each group. They're 2 different parties. And when we did this camp, it was all those same kids, but they were jumbled up in a different order. So it became a matter of how do I sort of seamlessly, sort of as seamless as possible, introduce them to this new setting, right? This new adventure with a different mix-up of kids. So what I did is I basically had all of the characters be figments of one character's imagination. So the main character, the character who persisted between both adventures, ended the sort of regular season adventure by hitting their head. And then they woke up in this strange dream island that had some of the people that they knew. All the NPCs they met on the island had the faces of characters they had met in the regular campaign. And they had a week of adventures on this island trying to figure out a way to escape. It was like very obvious that it was a dream. That kind of came out front with that. And they had this sort of weird mix of their party members that was a mix of some of the 2 different parties. And we did that for a week, and then at the end of that time, the character fell asleep in the dream and woke up, and it kind of everything reset. So the island was sort of reset, and they had new characters in the second party, and they had to sort of solve their way out of it. So that's what I did the last time I ran one of these camps. I have a winter one now, again, which I said is a little shorter because it's 3 days instead of 5 days. And so the question is, what kind of a reality-altering event can I introduce to these 2 different parties to mix them up, have them go on a short little adventure, and then kind of bring them back to where they are. So that's basically the premise. We have 2 camps of kid players from 2 previously established parties. I need some sort of cosmic event that scrambles everything up, and then whatever it is, I need it to be easily rectifiable, something I can kind of reverse with a hand wave. So once it happens, right, we can kind of say like, nope, everything's fine. So the options I have for that are to basically, let me talk about maybe the premise of where these 2 different parties are. So we have Party A, who still has yet to be named. Oh no, we have the Mysterious 6 is one of our 2 parties. Mysterious 6. They are currently seeking entrance to Dol Zargond, the Dwarven City of Artifice. And then Party B, who has yet to have a name, recently inherited a castle. Also commissioning a magical ship from a Kraken. So these are two different parties. We have the Mysterious Six, and they are on a little side quest right now trying to get towards this dwarven metropolis that has a bunch of artifacts, and basically it's the city of makers, a secret city. The kids are really into Minecraft, and they're really into making their own adventures and items and things like that. So I wanted to kind of give them a place where they could run wild and basically take the money that they've earned adventuring and spend it on whatever they want. So they're kind of seeking this place, Dol Zargond, where they can do that. They're on a little side quest to get the things they need to find the city. Whereas Party B, they recently defeated sort of a big villain group called the Dragon Slayers in this campaign. Again, game for kids, right? These are preteens. They defeated these Dragon Slayers, and they acquired basically this castle. They managed to push out the villains, took over the castle, and are kind of exploring it. In the process, it's a long story, but they met this Kraken who offered to build them a ship if they give it a particular item that it's looking for. So they're kind of in the middle of that adventure. We will probably get one more adventure for both groups. But I think the best case scenario here with this game is that it doesn't mesh with either of the two stories, right? That it's like a crazy out of left field event that sort of rocks them to their core. So that's where they are now, right? That like basically pulls them out of their adventure and then puts them somewhere else. So my options that I have to potentially sort of shake them out of this and throw them onto a little side adventure. So we have the Nightmaker. The Nightmaker was the villain of the Island of Dreams arc. Basically, he was a dreamer, someone who got stuck in this world, right? In this dream world, who fell asleep and got stuck in this recursive loop where, you know, every 12 hours, the island would reset and they'd be stuck there. And they realized that they could basically create things of their own will. Because it was their dream, they could kind of lucid dream and shape everything around them. And they had been there for sort of endless generations, just perpetually dreaming and redreaming and redreaming. The party conflicted with them a couple of times and ended up waking up, which destroyed the world and then sent the Nightmaker back into their own sort of conscious body wherever they are. So it seems obvious to me to maybe use this guy who's now awakened in the real world as a potential villain, some means to bring them back. But the party was really kind of eager to be away from the dream stuff. They got sort of sick of it after 2 weeks, and I am loath to reintroduce it like that. So what I'm maybe thinking instead is to use Crenshinaban. So this has been a pretty wild campaign, just to be transparent, right? A lot of stuff has happened. The kids are very mercurial. They will do stuff sort of without any warning. They will engage with plot threads that they maybe shouldn't. So at one point early on in the campaign, they stumbled across a vault that was held by this order of knights, these sort of goodly paladins. And as a joke to myself, in the vault, I stocked it with a bunch of crazy high-level evil artifacts that they could just kind of look at. I had no intention that they would be able to steal these, right? But of course they did. They wanted to. And it was originally meant to be a one-shot. So, yeah, great, fine, you can steal them. Among the things there was the Hand and Eye of Vecna, the Sword of Kos, an Orb of Dragonkind, a bunch of these things. And through some shenanigans, they managed to steal a couple of these items, one of which was the Crystal Shard, Crenshinaban, from R.A. Salvatore's late 80s, early 90s series. In that, it's very much like the Ring, right? It's this evil artifact that wants to accumulate power. I have since used it as a sort of reality warping Infinity Stone style item that, while intelligent, has these grand schemes that nobody can really understand. It has the ability to kind of move between realities and things like that. It's this very mindfucky kind of plot device thing I get to use. Recently, the characters lost it. It accidentally fused with an Orb of Dragonkind and possessed a couple of dragons and escaped. So the Crenshinaban is still kind of like at large out there. And that might be something we could use. That is sort of what I'm leaning more towards. Some sort of a reality warping thing. The question would be, what does it do and how does it do it and why does it do it? And then the other idea I had was something with stars, like some kind of a harmonic convergence celestial event. What I like about that one is that I could potentially sort of foreshadow that with the other two parties. So if we do end up meeting earlier in the month, then I could maybe drop some hints about that. Oh, of course, ambulances driving by. I can maybe drop some hints about that in those sessions. So what do you guys think? I know that's a lot of info, and it's kind of hard to drop into the middle of this campaign, but I'm sort of wondering what the correct path here is. So I think Nightmaker, pros, all the characters have some relationship with the Nightmaker. All the kids were involved in that adventure, so they would all recognize the Nightmaker if they appeared. Oop, let me scroll up a little bit. So that way you guys can see it better. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Have some relationship with the Nightmaker. A recognizable villain. That's been absent just long enough to be dramatically satisfying. Cons. The players are a little sick of the Nightmaker and likely wouldn't respond to his reappearance. While he's been away for a while, might be better to leave him in the oven for a bit. Now, the Crystal Shard, the pros, it's in terms of dramatic reveals, it's in the sweet spot. It was probably 2 sessions ago, which is about 2 months ago for these kids, that this happened, that the crystal sort of ran off with the Orb of Dragonkind. So that's not terrible. Like, in terms of, it's kind of in the sweet spot for it being like, they've probably forgotten about it, right? Probably forgotten about it. Could be exciting for the crystal to return. One of the cons, though, the crystal was heavily involved in one of the parties, in Party B, but not so much in Party A, or in the Mysterious Six. Meaning they might not understand what's happening. So what this is kind of leading me to is the stars, right? Some sort of a harmonic convergence idea. Yeah, let's try that. Scroll down again. I want to figure out, like, what's the sweet spot for where I should put that. I go like, yeah, like that. Okay. I scroll it up a little bit. Okay. So yeah, like a harmonic convergence effect. All the planets align and something crazy happens. I'm not sure what that would be, because again, what you need to do is you just switch up these parties. You got to kind of blur the 2 lines together, but they wouldn't all be together at once. It wouldn't be like, here's everybody. It would be some people from one party and some people from another party. So I think something that's like universal. So let's write down the pros. Maybe change this to harmonic convergence. Stars align and something reality bending happens. Pros. It's fresh for everyone. It's fresh for everyone. Possibly foreshadowed in games played this month. Cons, it doesn't exactly make sense. There's no recognition factor. It would be it would be something dropped from on high. Right, like, it doesn't make sense in that I don't have the idea. That doesn't mean I can't have the idea, I just don't have it yet. So the question is, what would that idea be? Right, how do we make that satisfying? I think in the back of my head, I'm inspired by Chris Perkins. Chris Perkins in his IO Mantra campaign did something similar to this. He had 2 different parties, and then he had like a weird harmonic convergence where all the parties all got scrambled up. Which is interesting. He said it was like a logistical nightmare. I'm not so much worried about the logistics as I am about like the physicality of that. You know, what in the world is happening? Where do they end up? Do you just mix and match characters? Which, like, I guess you could do. So one option is that option a harmonic convergence. Swaps the parties. The mysterious 6 ends up in the castle, which is called Wormspire Citadel. It's up in Wormspire Citadel. You guys still see that, or is it too far down now? Yeah, that's good. Ends up in Wormspire Citadel. Party B ends up in Dol Zargond. I think that's kind of funny, but I don't know that it's interesting. I think that ultimately that would be frustrating. Oh, right, and that doesn't matter because they wouldn't be the... Yeah, that doesn't make any sense because it wouldn't be the whole party, right? That would get... They'd get mixed up. So they have to be mixed up. So option A, I don't think this is a very good option either, is that, like, based, like, keep the same storylines, but mix up the characters. Meaning, like, some characters from the Mysterious 6 end up in Wormspire Citadel. Some characters from Party B end up in Dol Zargond. So what I don't really like about that is that you end up with a lot of having to like explain what things are or re-explaining things. I think it's better to take everybody out and put them somewhere new again, right? What if it's like a option B? What if it's like a Baldur's Gate thing, right? Or Descent into Avernus. Descent into Avernus. All the characters are transported to another realm. Not a dream world, but an actual other plane of existence. They run around for 3 sessions and then warp back when the planets leave Convergence. So pros here, you know, it's easily mixes the parties. Very little explanation. Yeah, you do kind of like a John Carter thing, right? That they're just going along doing what they're doing, and then everybody kind of just disintegrates, and then they reappear somewhere else, right? It's a little weirder, you know, like you could make a factor of it, like how do they get there? But both of these parties are so bad at biting hooks that you almost want to have it be a very external, unchangeable thing, right? You kind of want it to be something that there's an immediate explanation. It's this, but it's a heavenly body, so you know there's no real explanation as to why that's happening. The problem is you have to do it twice, right? If it was just once, yeah, you have to do it twice with the same persistent character. So cons needs to be repeated doesn't really make sense to do twice. Yeah, that's tricky. Oh, got that one lock of hair that's folded over. Ah. Bros, my hair's getting so long. Yo. There we go. How's the screen? Oop. Let me scroll it down. It's a little too small, I think. The space I've given myself to type my notes. It's a little small. Yeah. I like this one. I think if we could think of an interesting enough location, that could be kind of cool. But I don't know. Because, yeah, I mean, like, you could do one of the obvious planes. Like, I don't want to send the kids to hell. They're, preteens. So you wouldn't obviously do Baldur's. You wouldn't obviously do Avernus. But you could do something Avernus-like. You could do something very, like, the elemental plane of fire, theoretically. Oh, what if you do... Yeah. What if it's like this? What if it's like, every session, they teleport to a new plane, right? There are 6 planes of existence. Fire, air, water. Maybe you say there's 7. There's 7 planes of existence. Fire, air, water, earth. I guess you could do like dread, something like that. Some sort of hell, Shadowfell. Maybe shadow. Yeah, shadow's interesting. Shadow. Something. And then material. And each session during Harmonic Convergence, they teleport to a new one. So for the first 3, it's the same group teleporting around. And then for the last 3, it's one character persists, but the other characters get mixed in. Yeah, I think that's fine. So yeah, it's this like time dilation thing. They're like basically going to these different planets. And you probably make it something that like they can see in the sky, right? It's like there's a the planets are lining up. I think that's cool. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think it's like they slalom between these different planes. Oh, you guys can't see it again. Hold on. Yeah, way too small. How's that? There you go. So the question would be, like, do you come up with a plot then, like a story that arches over all of them, or do you just kind of let them run around and cause chaos, on these 6 different planes? Do you let them choose? No, I don't think they get to choose which one they go to. They just like see them in the sky, right? Yeah. How does that work? How do you see harmonic convergence? Can you? Like, if all the planets lined up, would you be able to see that from Earth? I don't think so. Maybe I'm crazy, but I can't picture that. What would harmonic convergence look like on Earth versus on Mars? I mean, they're planes, so they could work differently, but that's weird. Okay. So I like the idea of there being some through line, but again, because you have these 2 different groups, it would almost need to be 2 short stories, 2 small points. I don't want it to be tied to how do we get back, because they obviously won't do that. So, Like the elemental planes are pretty easy. Let's do that. Let's think about what we can find on some of these planes. Because again, I think what works best with these dudes is like sandbox stuff, you know? So fire. Infernos. Water. Aqueous. I don't know, I'm making these up. Aqueous. Air. Auros. Earth. Taros. So fire. So what do you traditionally find? Let me get my DMG. That's got some information about it. I will be right back, everybody. Let me throw on the waiting screen. Hey, I'm back. My hair keeps flopping over again. Why does it do that? Get over there. This is what you came to see. This is the delicious content that you want, is me messing with my hair. I'm like trying to do it. There we go. I'm trying to do it like in the OBS, and so it's hard. I have my Dungeon Master's Guide. Let's see what these planes are about. So I always thought there was this weird way they structured this, where like very early they're talking about like the different planes and planar portals and stuff like that. Yeah, you can do a thing with portals where like they get sucked into one every time. Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, they have the ethereal plane, which is kind of like the weird ghost plane, right? That's where ghosts live. Misty fog-bound dimension. Its shores, called the border ethereal, overlap the material plane and the inner planes, so that every location on those planes has a corresponding location on the ethereal plane. I'm not that interested in that. Yeah, let's do Feywild, I think. Let's do Feywild. So air, fire, air, water, earth, shadow, shadowfell, Feywild, material. So let's look at the plane of fire. So that's what we have up here. Blazing sun hangs at the zenith. Ranges from white hot at noon to deep red at midnight. So I'm just gonna write down like ideas of things that they could encounter on the elemental plane of fire. So blazing heat. Hey, what's up, David? Blazing heat. Blazing heat. Yeah, I'm discovering that maybe 2 p.m. my time isn't a great time to do streams. I might probably try to push them into the evening more next time. Although I don't know, for those of you who are in Central Time. So elemental plane of fire has blazing heat. You know, let me scroll it down for you guys. Oh, of course, all my neighbors are out talking right now. You probably can't hear that, but they sound very loud to me. So things they can encounter here: they have blazing heat. They have like dust and ash, kind of sandstorms, right? Yeah, locations, cinder wastes. A great expanse of black cinders, embers, crossfire. Ooh, lava. Rivers of lava. Yeah, I don't know. Can you guys hear them? I should go poke them and see. Hey, how do you guys feel about the city of Brass? Rivers of lava. Roving bands of salamanders. So, for those of you just joining us, the premise here is that I have a winter camp coming up where I need to plan a very kind of strange structure of an adventure. Yeah, they're yelling at each other. It's wild. crazy. Can you guys hear any of this? They're having this like big argument on my balcony. This is very distracting. I'll have my headphones in. That might help. That's a little better. Can you guys hear them? Or am I crazy? Awesome. So the premise here is that I have to run this adventure for these two parties of kids. And it's basically like they are two established groups that we are mixing together for a number of sessions and then kind of splitting back up. So my idea right now is to do kind of like an astrological event, like a harmonic convergence. Can't hear one bit of it? I'm so glad to hear that. They're screaming at each other. Yeah, it's one thing to observe it when you're not actually there. It's another thing when it's like right outside. I'm so glad you guys can't hear it because it's very distracting. You hear them just fine? Wait, hold on. So Sildari can't hear it and you can hear it? That's wild. You can hear now what it's about. Tell them to speak up. Yeah, right? It's so loud. They're just right outside my window. This is not what this stream is meant to be about, but this is what's happening. This is real life happening right here. Oh, Los Angeles, everybody. Los Angeles. It's okay. They're actually very nice people, both of them, but they seem to be in some sort of a disagreement. Okay. Looks like it's quieted down. Crazy. All right. So we need to find a way to mix these two parties. So we're going to do this kind of harmonic convergence thing where all 7 of the planes. Okay. If they could just a little louder, guys. I also have like my noise gates and stuff on, so that's probably why you can't hear it as much. Normally that's to combat the traffic, but in this case it's for neighbors, I guess. Well, that's fine. That's okay. City of Brass / neighborhood drama stream. Exactly. So my point is, if you're just joining us, that the characters are going to kind of go on a round trip of a very simplified version of the sort of outer planes. So this harmonic convergence happens. Kind of think of like everyone's favorite Thor movie, Thor: The Dark World, where the 9 realms like lined up. I think we do a similar thing where like these 7 planes line up, and then they are kind of like whisked through each one of them. Right, so they spend like a session on the plane of fire, and a session on the plane of water, and a session on the plane of air, and a session on the plane of earth, a session in the Feywild, a session in the Shadowfell, right? And they like shunt through all of them. I think what we should do is we should change the order. So let's do like, I think fire is good. I think fire is good to start with because it kind of sets the tone of like, oh my god, what? Like you're in this extremely crazy thing. So let's do like order. Fire, and then I think we do something like Feywild, and then maybe Earth, and then air. Maybe we do, oh yeah, let's contrast them. So fire, Feywild, water, air, Shadowfell, Earth. I kind of like ending with Shadowfell, but I like the notion of not. These sessions are 3 hours, David. So they're quick, right? They like briefly enter, see how crazy it is, and then it gets shunted out to the next plane. The idea here being, can you guys see that? I really need to increase the size of my, yeah. Oh, what a stream. What a janky ass stream this is today. I still need to go further down. There. That's better. So janky. Yeah, the 3 hour sessions. And the notion here is that these kids are rabid little badgers, so they just want to run around and they want to push things over. They don't really care about story. They don't really care about ongoing narrative. I think plopping them in these different locations and letting them kind of explore it for a bit and then they get teleported out, I feel like there's some nice continuity there. In that like they don't, I'm not trying to like beg them to engage with the story, which is what I'm normally doing. I think this lets them just like run around crazy, deal with the problem that they're in. Like, you know, I can imagine the characters getting teleported into the plane of air and just falling, right? Like their first problem is like, oh my god, we're just falling to our deaths, right? Thousands of miles from above, and it's just endless falling. do kind of like a Skyward Sword thing where there's like floating islands and they can explore those. And they can like fly in between them and just let them run around as opposed to trying to dictate. So all you need to prep then would be like a handful of little encounters or like a location or two, maybe 3 locations per plane, that are like relatively simple. Let them explore it. On the plane of fire, they encounter a dust storm and they can go to the City of Brass and there's a volcano that explodes and that's the plane of fire. Shadowfell and Feywild are kind of the exceptions because they're a little bit more developed. But it's just kind of to show you, look at the crazy multiverse that exists. And then they slam back into the real world at the end of it. Yeah, I don't hate that. Okay, so yeah, let's come up with like 3 interesting things that the characters could encounter when they run around. I think maybe let's do this. Let's do like a starting condition for each plane. Starting condition. Because I like the idea that, once again, you guys can't read it. Let me scroll it up here. Oh, too small. There we go. I like the idea that they have, like, whenever they arrive on a plane, they're there in some harrowing circumstance, like for the most part. Maybe it's not immediately obvious why it's harrowing, but at least for this first one, starting condition, and then like locations they can explore. So I think this starting condition, I kind of want it to be lava. Because you could do a sandstorm. Like, a sandstorm's not ridiculous. But I think something about getting teleported onto an island of rock in the middle of, like, a flowing, exploding volcano is kind of interesting. Right? Like, that scene in Lord of the Rings, like, in Return of the King, when they're on that little, like, promontory and the lava's going around. I think it's that. It's like, boom, that's where you end up. That's where the portal drops them. And so it's this immediate, like, you need to solve this problem. You're stuck on this lava. Right? And then you see this vast desert, and there's a city, and there's a whatever, and they can kind of run around. But then at the end of 3 hours, they just get sucked into the next location. And I like that idea too, because they will I like the notion of trying to encourage them, like, hey, you know what? You should leave because it's better than staying here. Yeah, cool. So, an active exploding volcano. The characters are trapped on a rock. In a flowing lava river. And must engineer an escape. So locations, definitely the City of Brass, which we're going to read about right now. The City of Brass. Perhaps the best known location in the Inner Plains is the City of Brass, on the shores of the Sea of Fire. Ooh, Sea of Fire. Okay, let me write that down. On the shores of the Sea of Fire. Sea of Fire. Fabled City of the Ifrits. So they can meet some genies. That's cool. I think yeah, like Jinn and Genasi and Mephits and Elementals should be like the kind of the recurring theme, that they're constantly meeting. Like on the elemental plane of water, they meet Marids, and they meet, Ifrits on the elemental plane of fire, and they meet Genie on the elemental plane of air, and they meet Tao on the elemental plane of earth, right? That it's like the Genie are kind of the Jinn are the obvious inhabitants of these places. That's cool. Ornate spires. Onion domes, classic City of Brass stuff. The heart of the city is the towering charcoal palace, where the tyrannical sultan of the Ifrit reigns supreme. Okay, yeah, charcoal palace is cool. Charcoal palace, seat of Ifrit's power. Good for purchasing magic items. So they love to buy magic items. I think that the City of Brass is a great place for them to do that. Cool. Other locations. I think the Sea of Fire is a potential location. Exactly what it says on the tin. Let me scroll down for y'all. Yeah, way too small. I gotta fix this for next time. A little higher. It's like the target area is so hard to pinpoint. There we go. Fabled city. There you go. I like the idea of like ships. Brass ships that ply the sea of flame. Islands. What's some other cool stuff we can encounter on a sea of fire? Right? Like sea serpents. You know, lava creatures. Lava monsters. Like sea serpents that swim in the flame, right? Maybe salamanders are like merfolk. Swimming in the fiery sea. Yeah, that's cool. There's some kind of a desert. What did they call it? The Cinder Wastes. Cinder Wastes. Fire sharks. Fire sharks. Fire sharks. Cinder Waste is a blasted desert. Oppressive heat. Blowing sandstorms. You don't want it to just, like, everything to be terrible, though, right? Like, obviously, they'll probably go to the city. You could make them, like, cross the desert to get to the city. And then maybe in the city they hear about, like, a treasure on an island or something. Yeah, there's, like, a pirate adventure kind of an element here. Pirate adventure. Treasure buried on an island. They love treasure. They love items. They love gold. So finding ways to motivate them that way. I mean, honestly, I just think saying, hey, this is like a... Oop, yeah, this is a city where you can buy magic items is going to be plenty. Blasted desert, oppressive heat, blowing sandstorms. Like, you could do, like, an oasis, I think is kind of interesting. I don't want to, like, overdevelop these areas, especially if they're only there for one session, but I don't want it to feel like there's nothing. These planes should feel bigger and larger than life. Like, a Sea of Fire, I think, is a very big, larger than life location. What can we do with the Cinder Wastes to make it feel bigger and cooler? Let's see what they say, but I think right now it's just like, it's hot. I'm like, that's fine, but a little dull. The Plain of Fire is dominated by the vast cinder wastes, a great expanse of black cinders and embers crossed by rivers of lava. Roving bands of salamanders battle each other, raid Azure outposts, and avoid the Ifrit. Ancient ruins dot the desert, remnants of forgotten civilizations. So ruins are cool. Ruins, broken ruins, or scattered ruins. I like the idea of like roving bands. I think salamanders work better as merfolk. So like Azures, I guess. Azure fortresses. Genasi, nomads. You know, I want like some feature of it to be like what's the big overt magical feature of the Cinder Wastes, you know? Maybe the heat. Ooh, Matthias has got it. Maybe the heat turns sand to glass. Yeah, glass planes. That's cool. Called the Glass Wastes. So it's like really reflective. Yep, bingo. That's exactly what I needed. Thank you, Matthias. I appreciate that. Wonderful. Okay. I think that's pretty good for the Plane of Fire for Infernos. Let's talk about Aquios. So we need a starting location. My thought here... Oh, wait, we gotta do Feywild. Let's put Feywild in the middle there. So I think one thing I sort of like is the idea of saying that the Feywild and the Shadowfell seem better. They seem like a reprieve. Ooh, I like that, David. Heavy armor. Yeah, characters with heavy armor. Heavy armor are penalized. Like, I think they can wear it, but they're gonna be in trouble. I love the idea of doing that again in Aquios. Because my thought with the starting location for the Plane of Water is like deep, deep underwater. Like nowhere near the surface is where they appear, right? So then they'd be slowly sinking. So let's see. I like the idea that the Feywild. So I imagine just portals, right? Like fabrics in reality open up and suck people through. And then what's fun about that is that you could then do a plot in the real world when they get back that like things from these other planes are now scattered. It's almost like I think it's called Convergence. What is it called in The Witcher? I think it is called that actually. It's the something the like confluence of the spheres, I think, in Witcher. Yeah, where like things get pulled through. So then when we go back to the regular campaign, yeah, I can have like a marauding fire giant or something walking around. Oh, speaking of which, fire giant marauders. Yeah, that's what I like. And then like Azure fortresses. Okay, so I like the idea that the Feywild like comes across as reprieve, right? That they're in this oppressive, hot environment on the elemental plane of fire, and they see the portal open and like, oh god, a tranquil forest. Go there. That's much better than here. And then of course the Feywild turns out to be, you know, uniquely dangerous in its own way. I think that's cool. Ooh, yeah, shard storm. I didn't even see that. Blowing shard storms. Oh, that's brutal. Nice job. Okay, so let's look at the Feywild, how they kind of categorize. I know it's like a place of like great emotion, is the idea, right? Which I always thought was kind of a neat take on it. Plane of Fairy is a land of soft lights and wonder, place of music and death, a realm of everlasting twilight with glittering fairy lights bobbing in the gentle breeze, fat fireflies. It's parallel to the material plane, an alternate dimension that occupies the same cosmological space. The landscape of the Feywild mirrors the natural world, but turns its features into spectacular forms. Sylvan creatures. Fey crossings. There's not, like, actually specific locations here. Interesting. Okay. So let's talk about the Feywild. I like the idea of it looking like idyllic, right? Like the starting location is like an idyllic forest glade. Glade beneath strange stars. And then it seems like, oh man, this is better. At least we're not, you know, it's obviously a different place. It's obviously magical, but at least we're not in the realm of fire anymore. And then the longer they kind of stay there, the weirder and creepier and ultimately more sort of hostile it becomes. Right. So let's think of some ideas. What are some locations? What are some... So can you put in locations they know in the material plane, but super fey? Yeah, that's kind of cool. Because then you do the same thing with the Shadowfell, right? And do like really like dark and drear locations. Okay. So locations. This is gonna be a little insider baseball because oops, this should be I don't know if you guys can see. I'm trying. Yeah, that's a little better. Yeah, Spirited Away. Ooh, Spirited Away is a really good hit. I posted a thread yesterday about or a tweet yesterday about how difficult it is to define like Fae, like the Fae aesthetic, right? And I think like Miyazaki hits it right on the head now. I wouldn't have thought that until you said that, David, but yeah, exactly, right? So a little insider baseball, but like locations that currently exist, we have Castle Wormspire Citadel. We have Castle Draconica. There's a lot of dragon castles in this. Castle Draconica, Troll Spot Inn, Nazdrong Keep, Preston Bywater. That's probably good. There's a lot of castles right now, like 3 castles. So Castle Draconica is normally material plane. Oh, whoops. The material plane, Castle Draconica is a flying castle. home base of the Dragon Knights, who are the kind of heroic NPCs. And then in the material plane, Ormspire Citadel is a seaside castle standing on a massive bluff. Troll Spot Inn is a humble tavern. A humble tavern in the middle of a lake. Material plane for Nazron Keep is a ruined dwarven keep. A ruined dwarven keep high in the craggy mountains. And then Preston by Water is like a sleepy village, sleepy fishing village on a winding river. So those are 5 locations from our campaign. So the question is, like, what do you do to sort of Feyify those 5? So the Flying Castle feels pretty Fey kind of to begin with. It could be on a cloud. I mean, this is getting kind of, again, not Insider Baseball, but a little bit like thematic. But you could play with, like, what is the kind of... Someone yesterday described the Fey as being... stories made real, like living stories, and I kind of think that's interesting. Hear me out. Are we overcomplicating this? Does it need to be 6 planes, or should it just be 2? Should it just be the Feywild and the Shadowfell? Right? That, like, because these planes are already kind of adjacent to each other. So you could have it be a thing where one... What do you think? Do you think it's more interesting to do all of these locations, or should we just focus on 2 of them? Because there's only 2 parties, right? Like Feywild, Shadowfell. And then we could, like, really do deeper dives on those locations, which I think is kind of cool. I've actually done a fair amount of work on a Shadowfell adventure I did for Junior Adventurers League. I could pluck a bunch of those ideas out. What do you think, Chad? Do you think it's better to do 6 locations, or do you think it's better to do 2 and, like, invest in them more? I think it's less work to invest in 2 locations than it is to lightly touch 6. But I also think there's like a... If you don't like this place, right? If you feel like, ugh, I don't want to be here, this fireplace sucks, at least you know that there's going to be another place coming next session, right? It's not like... If you go to the Feywild and you don't like it, then you're kind of screwed because you're there for 3 sessions. Because there's a part of me, I'm getting more and more drawn to the idea of just doing 2. What do you guys think? My friend is a fun Fey tavern that advertises free food, drink, and room, but it costs you in obscure ways: luck, memories, happiness, and eventually you just can't easily leave. That's kind of neat. Yeah, maybe do that here. Fey for Troll Spot Inn. Feywild. Everything's free, but it costs luck, memories, happiness. Yeah, that's neat. Feels like it's run by a hag, right? I'm kind of leaning... I can't decide. Because there's something very swashbuckling about, like, we have to go through all these realms. Crap, right? Like, here we go. Like, you know the framing device is there. Whereas if they just get stuck in the Feywild for 3 sessions... And the Feywild, I think we do all 6. I think the Feywild is a little bit too similar to the Island of Dreams that I did last camp. And, like, that was fine. And I think it's fine for 1 session, right? But I think 3 sessions of it would feel very similar. So, yeah, I think we just do 1 per. That's my thought. Unless you guys feel differently, but then we can still use all of our work on the fire plane. Seaside castle, flying castle. So I think this is like underwater. Underwater castle. Full of selkies and mermaids. Although, you know what? Let's maybe not do that because they're just about to go to Aquios. I think for now we can leave these as like Fae reflections. If you guys have any more interesting Fae ideas, throw those in there. But I think we should move on to Aquios. Yeah, I agree, David. I think kids would have more fun with new settings. You're right. I think if it was adults, I might just do the two, but I think kids will have more fun with crazy new locations. Okay, locations. For water. Let's look at the elemental plane of water. Plane of air, plane of fire, plane of earth. Plane of water has an endless sea called the Sea of Worlds, dotted here and there with atolls and islands that rise up from enormous coral reefs that seem to stretch forever into the depths. The storms that move across the sea sometimes create temporary portals to the material plane and draw ships into the plane of water. Ooh. Yeah, storms. Storm. A massive, unavoidable storm that races towards the characters. It's cool. I still like starting deep, really deep underwater. I think is neat. A castle made of water. That's cool. Life flourishes in the upper reaches of the Sea of Worlds, called the Sea of Light. Yeah, there's like the different levels. So there's like the darkened depths and stuff. Yeah. I like a castle made of water. Do you think that's like good for Feywild? Do you think it's better for elemental plane of water? Cannot decide. They definitely have islands. Tropical islands here and there. Isle of Dread is supposedly there. Connected to the material plane by means of a regular storm that sweeps over the island. Travelers who know the strange tides and currents of the plane can travel between worlds freely. The storms also wreck ships from the material plane on the island's shore. There's also ice. That's sort of closer to the border between the elemental plane of air. There's no like good. This is the Citadel of 10,000 Pearls, which is an opulent underwater palace. Yeah. 10,000 pearls. Opulent underwater palace where Marids live. Oh, yeah. Feywild, castle made of water. I think that's cool. Yeah. A castle made out of water. I think that's neat. I like it. I think the Castle Draconica is flying, but it's upside down. So like, you know, it's basically the same, but it's normally instead of being pointed up, it's kind of that like Ender's Game, what's up, what's down, right? Same castle, but upside down. Cool. Nazron Keep, we'll have to think of one for. And Preston by Water, we'll have to think of one for. Okay. Opulent underwater palace where Marids live. What else is here? So they do the darkened depths thing. So you could do depths. Like they start down there. The characters start deep beneath the waves. Must swim back to the surface. Maybe there are bubbles of air rising from below that they can breathe in, but it implies something enormous and horrible is down there. Yeah, I like that. I think that's probably more like this. Yeah. We need like other water locations. There's ice, but because those are again like borders, right, between the air and the water is the ice stuff. Sea of Worlds, coral reefs, coral jungles, populated by fish and sharks and mermaids. Ooh, inside a whale. Yeah, a massive whale. I think we've done that before actually, but I think like an enormous sea monster. It's a good hit. Yeah, whatever is below them in the beginning chases them across the session. Like they might swim up and kick a beach on an island and then discover blah blah blah, right? Like then they see the crest of it, right? They're being kind of chased by this thing. Yeah, that's neat. I'm into it. I actually did a decent amount of adventuring on the elemental plane of water in my pirate campaign, so I may be able to pull some of that stuff. There's a thing with that where like the weather constantly changes, almost like when I was in Hawaii, I was struck by like how many different like kinds of weather the day will have. That it will be like rainy for a bit, and then sunny, and then rainy again, and then really hot, and then kind of cold because of wind, all over the course of one day. So I like that it's got this very changeable weather, though that might be an Aros thing that might work better on the plane of air. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the plane of air. I think the starting location here is falling. The characters fall through nothingness, through empty air for hours and hours. Hours and hours. The only way to stop their fall would be to land on a floating island, but if they land, they take all the damage. But if they land, they take all the damage from falling. Okay, so let's come up with some locations. The elemental plane of air. So, most of the plane of air is a complex web of air streams, currents, and winds called the labyrinth winds. These range from stiff breezes to howling gales that can rip a creature apart. Even the most skilled flying creatures must navigate these currents carefully. Yeah, that's kind of cool, like a labyrinth of air currents. Shifting maze of air currents. Hard to navigate. Tossing you around. I kind of think it's cool if, like, anybody can fly, right? Yeah, David's very whimsical right now. I love it. That's fun. I don't mind that shoe idea, actually. Return a lost shoe. Characters in heavy armor are penalized again. I like that idea that it's just like a big hassle. It like never pays off. It's never like worth it. Can you fly natively on the elemental plane of air? I kind of think it'd be cool if you could. Right? Let's do like a tornado or cyclone. Tornadoes and cyclones. An area. Fierce windstorms. Toss you around again, right? That threaten to pull you in. think in the SOC there is a note about movement, and you have to make an intelligence check to do so. Yeah, I kind of think the kids would have fun. Like, I don't think that they know that they can. I think you do a thing where they're falling, and yeah, it's just a matter of like, if you want to stop falling, you can, right? They don't realize they can just decide I can actually fly, right? They just think, oh God, I'm falling. It's like about willpower, right? What they don't realize, let me check and make sure you guys can, nope, can't see it. Can never see it. There we go. What they don't realize is that they can fly if they actually try it. I actually really like doing that kind of puzzle. I'm a big fan of like the well of flying, like in a castle where you get to a tower or something, right? Or maybe it's a descent, and you know you can see that there's a chamber up there, but there's obviously no staircase. And what are you supposed to do? Climb the outside? But yeah, maybe they like work their way up the masonry. But if you just stand in the center of the tower and just go up, you start to fly. Like nothing announces that you can fly, so you have to just like try it. So there's always that great moment of like them like, I guess I just like I like Peter Pan, I like fly, and then I'm like, yeah, and you lift off the ground, right? That's always a really fun moment. So I kind of like playing with that here too, right? It feels very elemental plane of air. They reference Akka, which is like a oh, we got Fast and the Furious outside. Yeah, Akka is like so there's floating islands. Yeah, I'm feeling very Skyward Sword here. Boy. LAPD, everybody. The LAPD. There they go. Very Skyward Sword. Small towns and cities constructed on floating islands. I think they're like giant birds. You know, there's Aarakocra for sure, but there's like rocks, giant eagles. They're like flying whales or something crazy, right? Like, yeah, that's fun. Tornado cyclones that ravage the countryside, such as that ravage the plain. Yeah, that feels good. Okay. Let's put Akka. Akka, City of Shining Goodness. And Jin. Okay. The Shadowfell is next. Shadowfell, Shadowfell. Okay. Overlast Material Plane, Shadow Crossings, Domain of Dread. Yeah, they don't really say anything about it in here, actually. Huh. Dimension of black, gray, and white, where most other color has been leached from everything. It is a place of darkness that hates the light, where the sky is a black vault with neither sun nor stars. Okay, once again, landmarks from the material plane are recognizable on the Shadowfell, but they are twisted and warped, distorted reflections of what exists on the material plane. When a mountain stands in the material plane, the corresponding feature in the Shadowfell is a jagged rock outcropping with a resemblance to a skull, a heap of rubble, or perhaps the crumbling ruins of a once great castle. The forest on the Shadowfell is dark and twisted, its branches reaching out to snare travelers' cloaks, and its roots coiling and buckling to trip those who pass by. So, like, obviously, there's like the Domains of Dread and stuff. They talk about Shadowfell Despair, but there's really not a lot of like actual information here about things you might encounter on the Shadowfell. So, starting location. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Location. The starting location. I don't know. Again, I kind of want it to seem better, that like something is happening in the elemental plane of air that's like, you know, dangerous or hazardous or whatever it is. Maybe this hurricane or something is coming down on them, this tornado, and they go through the portal thinking, okay, this is better. And I think we can once again do the like Excuse me. Excuse me, big yawn. But the Shadowfell isn't going to seem better. It's going to seem bleak and dreary. Maybe it's just like not actively dangerous, and that's why they go through. I think we can do the like weird reflections thing again. So we'll need like dour, depressing versions of each one of the things. Let's do those same 5 locations again from up here. And come up with like the depressing versions thereof. I don't know what the starting location is for the Shadowfell. But we have Wormspire Citadel. It's hard not to just say like all the things are broken. Right? That like I think the troll spot is like a suspicious inn. They fear. Again, kind of like Prancing Pony, right? Like they fear the common, they fear the fellow patrons, sense suspicion and paranoia. Yeah, that's cool. What kind of dungeon or a jail cell? Yeah, the characters have been in jail, I think, 400 times in the game. So I'm always hesitant to put more prison scenarios. But it's this tough thing where, like, when they go unconscious, as they often do because they tend to split up, I don't want to just, like, murder characters. So I have to, like, okay, you guys, I guess you get captured. So they're constantly trying to, like, work their way out of jail cells. Castle Draconica, I think, makes sense to have it have fallen, right? Like it's crashed to the earth, a wreck, shattered into pieces. Wormspire Citadel, I'm not sure. Oh, not Feywild, this is Shadowfell. Yeah, I actually don't mind them like stepping through and discovering that they're in a cell or something like that. Like that it's some. So I think, you know, there was a D&D Beyond video years ago that kind of contrasted the two, the Feywild and the Shadowfell, and the idea that the Feywild is like where all emotions are heightened, you know, and so like if you feel angry, it's like a murderous anger, and if you feel joy, it's like a crazy jubilant joy. Like everything is dialed to 11, whereas in the Shadowfell, everything is dialed way down. Right, it's like everything's oversaturated in the Feywild, everything's desaturated in Shadowfell. So, like, them stepping into this place, the notion of them having to do something onerous, that it's not like a jail cell per se, but I wonder if it's like a prison yard or something, right? Where like they're supposed to be breaking rocks. Like, I'm a big fan of making the Shadowfell feel like weird and Kafka-esque, right? That like, hey, do this thing for no reason. This terrible onerous thing. Yeah. So let's do that. Let's do like starting location is a prison yard filled with bleary prisoners pointlessly breaking rocks on a chain gang. And so, like, I don't think that they realize exactly. They just, like, see, okay, you see some sunlight coming through. You see, like, you know, rocks. It's, like, a different place. You go here. And they might think, oh, it's earth and this is air. And they go through it, and it's this, like, quarry, like a gravel quarry. Right? And everyone who's there, they're breaking these rocks, and they're doing this thing, but they don't remember why. They don't know what crime they committed, right? It's this, like, very bleak Terry Gilliam kind of a place, right? Like very Brazil. Oh, that's kind of interesting. What about like if one of these castles is like overflowing with paperwork? You know? It's like made of forms and documents. It's like a paper tiger. Oh, yeah, let's do that. Okay, so a castle constructed entirely from stacks of paperwork, haunted by paper tigers. The sleepy fishing village in the Shadowfell. Ooh, yeah, let's do this. Let's do the circus. So there was a circus that the characters encountered here. The World of Wonders is back. Full of magic. Splendor. Almost like a... And then you just do the opposite of that, right? Like there's a... Wonders is back, but dour and frightening. Like a Tim Burton carnival, right? Nazdrung Keep, we'll come back to it. But yeah, I think that's cool for the Shadowfell. I like that. Again, it's just like absurdist, like bleak, dreary place. And like, again, you're only here for a session, but you can kind of like emphasize to the players, like, it sucks here. You do not like it, right? You're having a bad time. Hey, what's up, Shadowhunter? Thanks for coming. Yeah, we only got about 20 minutes. Well, 40 minutes, I guess. We might end a little early, because once we get this last... Once we do the Earth plane, I think I'm probably good for what I need. So yeah, let's do it. So if they go back to the plane of Earth next, from the Shadowfell. Starting location... Yeah, I might retime these, because I feel like streaming at 2 p.m. is not great. Also to catch Arguing Neighbors, right? Maybe doing it a little later in the day might be better. Right on time, right as I say that, here comes the ambulance. Okay, Plane of Earth. So Plane of Earth is a chain of mountains rising higher than any mountain range in the material plane. It has no sun of its own, and no air surrounds the peaks of its highest mountains. Most visitors to the plane arrive by way of caves and caverns that honeycomb the mountains. So, the largest cavern beneath the mountains, called the Great Dismal Delve, where the sevenfold maze work, is home to the capital city of the Tao. So, you know, caverns obviously are a big location here. Caves and caverns. Let me scroll for you. There you go. Caves. Caves and caverns. Very Underdark-like, right? Warrens and tunnels leading every which way. The City of Jewels is in the elemental plane of Earth. The home of the Tao. Glittering with gemstones. So we need a situation that the characters can basically, like, plop into. When the portal takes them from the Shadowfell to the elemental plane of Earth, right? Like, what's going on? This time was a bit more Europe-friendly for once. That's true, Matthias. That's true. Like, I'm not opposed to it. It's more convenient for me, too. But it's because I don't have a job. You know, I'm a professional dungeon master. So my time is pretty fluid. I'm a freelancer. So... They don't really have a lot here. There's just, like, a big cave. And then there's the City of Jewels. And that's it. What else is on the elemental plane of Earth, folks? You know, what else do they encounter? They need a starting, like, situation, something that they are kind of thrown into right away that's dangerous to them, right? That they don't want to go to. You know, like a cave-in, maybe? Yeah. Bleak version of a mind, depleted and shaky. Yeah. Let's do a cave collapse. Rocks fall. Everyone dies. So it's like escape this collapsing tunnel. And then you come out into this massive underground cavern. You see the huge city. I wonder if, like, one of the things they have to deal with is that there's, like, a gargantuan fissure. Like a chasm, right? That separates them. An enormous canyon-like fissure. separating them from the City of Jewels. They must find a way to navigate the fissure. Navigate the chasm. Like, I like the idea of essentially underground mountains, that they can see the roof way up there, right? But that it's so high up, it's like the sky, and then there's, you know, mountains kind of underneath, like within the cave itself. Geothar in the middle of a massive gem heist. They're caught in the middle. That's funny. Yeah, some kind of a gem caper they get wrapped up in the middle of. Honestly, like, they're gonna start a caper. They don't need help with that. Yeah, all the DMG has is like, this is what the border regions are. Near the fire, it's called the furnaces. Near the water, it's called the Swamp of Oblivion. You know, and it's like, but that's not, I don't know. That's not helpful. It's not helpful, guys. It's not helpful. Let's save like one more cool location for the plane of Earth. And then I might call it, because I think we've got some good stuff here. Gluttonous Zorn, Rust Monsters, Guardian Gale of Door, Greater Earth Elementals. Yeah, lots of monsters. Zorn. Yeah, I think tunnels as a concept, like it's one enormous cavern. Yeah, so let's break these into two. So cavern, enormous cavern with mountains inside. It's so big it has its own mountains. So big it has its own mountains. And then tunnels. A warren, a honeycomb of tunnels that work through the stone. Populated by elementals, Umber Hulks, Zorn. Yeah, I don't have that old manual of the plans. I should check it out. Gale of Door, etc. Yeah, I think that's fine. And they're sucked back through to the material plane, and the implication being that when they get back to the material, that like while these portals have been open, they have pulled creatures and monsters and NPCs through. So if they meet any big NPCs along the way, I can play with the idea that now they're here in the material plane. Okay, I think that's pretty good. It's a pretty wacky series of adventures, and it's just kind of them bouncing around, but I think they're going to have more fun doing that. The other advantage of doing this as opposed to doing like another dream thing is that when they had the big dream adventure, they were prevented from keeping a lot of their magic items. So I should make sure to like heavily populate these planes with treasure and magic items and things that they can bring back. That's what they really are into. So that might help them be excited to go to the next plane and see the next thing, right? Ooh, labyrinth-like is cool. Yeah, a big maze. A maze to be navigated. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, I think that's good. I like the idea of the chasm is like a bottomless pit that they just fall forever, similar to the plane of air. Okay, cool. Well, it's 3:30 my time. I think I'm probably gonna call it there. I'm starving. I'm gonna eat some food. I've not had lunch today. So yeah, thanks everybody for coming and checking this out. Sorry if it was a little, we had some interruptions from some neighbors. A little slow start, but it was cool to see some more people show up. If you like the stream, I will probably continue to do this on Tuesdays. It may be at the same time. It may be later in the day. I haven't really decided. Ooh, the Sevenfold Maze work. That's cool. The City of Jewels is known for its rulers discarding what they might consider waste. Ooh, like a trash heap? That's kind of cool. Yeah. Trash heap full of gems. It's kind of nice. That's an interesting idea, right? Like they think that the Dow think that they're garbage, but that the adventurer's like, well, I'll take them. But yeah, if you like the show, obviously please subscribe. I think most of you watching are subscribed, but if you're watching this later, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you like me, you can find me on Twitter. I am at XP Web Series. I tweet a lot, usually about dwarves. If you really like me, you can visit us at patreon.com. So it's patreon.com/xbwebseries and become a patron. That's sort of how we keep the show on the air, how I keep making content. And if you really, really like me, you can visit my website, pro-dm.net, and you can hire me to run a game for you. We'll hopefully be back next Tuesday with another adventure prep stream. I may be prepping my Eberron campaign next week. I'm not really sure what I will do, but I want to try to make this a regular thing. It's a nice way for me to not pester my poor wife with adventure ideas, because I always need to think about it. And I think talking them out, even to chat, even almost to myself, is helpful in a way that just thinking about them isn't. So it's awesome to have everybody here. Thanks so much for coming, and we'll be back. I'll honestly probably be streaming on Thursday as well, though it won't be an adventure prep stream. I'll probably do some video games. I'm not sure what I'll play. Maybe Darkest Dungeon, maybe some Battlefront. I haven't decided. But I will talk to you guys then. Thanks for coming, everybody, and I will see you on Twitter.